I never thought my life would lead to this moment, standing before the Queen of Zalara, caught between fate and the unknown. The chamber was vast, carved from shimmering obsidian, the air thick with the scent of alien flora. Massive bioluminescent, tendrils coiled around the ceiling, pulsing with slow rhythmic light as if the palace itself was alive. She sat upon a throne of twisted silver, adorned in intricate armor that glowed with faint green energy. Her emerald skin shimmered under the light, and her golden eyes, luminous and sharp, studied me with unsettling intensity. She was unlike anything I had ever seen, beauty sculpted by evolution for a purpose I had yet to understand. "You intrigue me, Captain Doran," she said, her voice smooth as liquid metal, yet carrying a weight that sent a chill through me. "Your species is adaptable, yes?" I swallowed hard, forcing my body to remain still. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I had nowhere to go. My diplomatic mission had turned into a nightmare the moment we arrived in Zalarian space. Our shuttle had been impounded the second we landed, our weapons stripped away, our communication jammed. The others, my crew, had been taken somewhere deep within the palace, and I hadn't seen them since. Now, I stood alone, a human among giants, facing a monarch whose intentions were still a mystery. "We adapt," I admitted cautiously, choosing my words with care. The Queen's lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. She rose from her throne, descending the steps with measured grace, each movement deliberate, almost predatory. The long silver cloak trailing behind her shimmered as she moved, catching the ambient light. Her attendants, tall, silent figures in polished armor, watched with unreadable expressions. "Good," she purred, stepping closer. "Then perhaps you will prove yourself worthy." I didn't like the way she said it. Before I could respond, a low hum filled the chamber. A floating drone, sleek and mechanical, glided toward us carrying an ornate silver goblet. The Queen took it without breaking eye contact, sipping the luminescent blue liquid inside. "You are the first human to set foot on Zalara," she continued. "Your kind is young but promising." I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. "With respect, Your Majesty, I'd like to know where my crew is." Her expression didn't change. "They are safe." Safe. That could mean anything. She circled me slowly, her presence both alluring and unsettling. "Do you know why you are here, Captain?" I clenched my jaw. This was meant to be a diplomatic exchange. The Queen chuckled, a low, melodic sound. "Diplomacy," she mused, swirling the liquid in her cup. "A convenient veil for ambition." I stiffened. The way she said it, the way she looked at me, it felt as if she could see straight through me, past my training, past my carefully measured words. "The truth, Captain Doran, is that your arrival was foretold." I blinked. "Foretold?" She turned away, her gaze drifting toward the massive stained glass window behind her. The design was intricate, depicting a swirling galaxy with a central figure. Tall, humanoid, arms outstretched as if reaching for something beyond the stars. "It is said that a traveler from the void would come," she murmured, tracing the patterns with her fingertips. "A being not of Zalara, yet bound to its fate." A cold unease settled in my gut. "You think that's me?" The Queen turned back to me, stepping closer. Too close. The scent of something foreign yet intoxicating filled my senses, making it harder to focus. "I know it is," she whispered. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. My instincts screamed that this was more than just a conversation. It was a test. She reached out, her fingers brushing my jawline. The contact sent a jolt through me, though whether it was fear or something else I wasn't sure. "Our species is dying," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our genetic code is unraveling. We are on the edge of extinction." I didn't dare move. "You," she continued, tracing an idle circle against my skin, "are the key." My breath caught. "Key to what?" The Queen's eyes burned gold. "To our survival." A long silence stretched between us, heavy with meaning. I had heard of interspecies breeding programs before, desperate attempts by dying civilizations to preserve their lineage. But this was something more. There was an intelligence, behind her words, a deeper purpose hidden beneath the surface. I don't understand, I admitted. The Queen studied me for a long moment before stepping back, her expression unreadable once more. You will. Before I could respond, the massive chamber, doors groaned open. A tall Zalarian warrior entered, his silver armor gleaming, his violet eyes flicking toward me for the briefest moment before settling on the Queen. Your Majesty, he said, his voice clipped. It is time. The Queen nodded, her demeanor shifting in an instant. The warmth, if it had ever been there, vanished, replaced by the cold calculation of a ruler. Prepare the human, she commanded. 2 guards stepped forward. I stiffened. Prepare me for what? The Queen smiled, but there was no kindness in it. For the proving. The guards moved in before I could protest. Cold metal restraints clamped around my wrists. A sharp prick against my neck sent a rush of numbing fire through my veins. Darkness closed in at the edges of my vision. The last thing I saw was the Queen watching me with quiet satisfaction. Then, everything went black. I awoke in a dimly lit room, the air thick with an unfamiliar scent. It was sterile like an operating theater, but colder, harsher. My body felt strange, weightless, as though I was floating between sleep and waking. I tried to move, but the restraints around my wrists and ankles tightened, their grip unyielding. Soft hum filled the air, a low-frequency sound that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. The walls around me were sleek, metallic, and covered in glowing lines, patterns that shifted like living things, pulsing rhythmically. My mind raced, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The last thing I remembered was the Queen's cold gaze, then the overwhelming darkness as they injected me with something. What was going on? Where were my crew members? What had she meant by the proving? The door to the room slid open, and I immediately went on alert. A figure stepped inside, their silhouette tall and graceful, though their presence was more unsettling than reassuring. It was one of the Queen's attendants, their face hidden beneath the sleek metal helmet they wore. But I knew who it was. Lyra. She had been among the Queen's inner circle, a strategist and advisor, but I had never seen her in such close proximity to the monarch before. Something in her eyes, something in the way she held herself, told me she was different from the others. She was calm, purposeful, and familiar. Her eyes locked onto mine as she approached, her hands pulling the restraints away with ease. You are awake, she said, her voice low, almost hesitant. What? What is this? Where am I? I demanded, trying to sit up, but my head spun and I fell back against the cold surface. What are they doing to me? Lyra hesitated, glancing over, her shoulder toward the door. It slid shut, sealing us in silence. They're preparing you, she said quietly, her voice strained. For what the Queen desires. I gritted my teeth. I don't understand. What does she want from me? Lyra moved to stand beside me, her face finally emerging from the shadows beneath her helmet. She was beautiful, but there was something hardened about her expression, something guarded. It's not what you think, she said, her words barely above a whisper. The Queen doesn't just want you. She wants your essence, your genes, your very humanity. I blinked, confusion clouding my mind. What are you talking about? Lyra sighed and took a step closer. Your people. Humans. You have something. We Zalarians don't. The ability to adapt, to survive. It's in your genetic makeup, your biology. The Queen believes that by using you, she can unlock the power of our ancestors, the ancients. I frowned. Ancients? She nodded. The Zalarians were once a dominant force in the galaxy, a species capable of extraordinary feats. But over the millennia, we have declined. Our DNA has deteriorated. We cannot reproduce in the same way anymore. Our bodies are failing. And that is why the Queen believes you, Your blood, your genetics are the key to our salvation. I could feel the weight of her words settling on my chest. This wasn't just about diplomacy anymore. The Queen wasn't interested in peaceful relations between our species. She had her own agenda. She's insane, I muttered, my voice barely above a growl. She wants to use me to… what? Make hybrids? To bring back the power of the ancients? Lyra's eyes flickered with something like regret. It's not just that. The Queen is obsessed with power. She believes if she can merge your DNA with ours, she will unlock the secrets of the Vault of Eternity. I raised an eyebrow. The Vault of Eternity? Lyra swallowed hard. It's a place of unimaginable knowledge lost to time. The Zolarians believe it holds the key to our ascension. The Queen thinks if she can access its power, she will become a being beyond time itself. Immortal, unstoppable. My mind reeled. The Vault of Eternity was no ordinary relic, it was the stuff of legends. Zolarian mythology spoke of it as a place where the secrets of the universe were hidden. But the idea that the Queen could unlock it with my DNA? That didn't just sound dangerous, it sounded catastrophic. You have to stop her, Lyra said urgently, stepping closer. I'm helping you because I know what she plans. She doesn't want an heir. She doesn't want a future. She wants control. And she'll do whatever it takes to get it. I looked at her, trying to understand her motives. Why are you helping me? What's in this for you? Lyra hesitated, her gaze shifting toward the door once more. She moved to the window instead, staring out at the vast cityscape below her, back to me. Because I've seen the Queen's true nature. I've watched her destroy those who disagreed with her. I've seen her betray her own people in her lust for power. And I can't stand by and watch it happen again. Her words struck me harder than I expected. You're part of her inner circle, aren't you? Lyra nodded, her fingers gripping the edge of the window frame. Yes, I was once loyal to her. But I've come to realize that she's not interested in saving her people. She's only interested in saving herself. I exhaled slowly. So, what now? How do I stop her? Lyra turned to face me, her expression hardening. You need to escape. You need to get out of here before she can carry out her plan. I've been working on a way to break you free, but we don't have much time. A sense of urgency filled the room. I could feel it. The ticking clock. The weight of what lay ahead. Lyra stepped toward me, her eyes filled with something fierce. The Queen wants your DNA, Captain. She wants to unlock the Vault of Eternity, but I'll help you find another way, one that doesn't lead to our destruction. I nodded, a sense of determination rising in my chest. Let's get out of here. We've got work to do. But even as I said it, a part of me wondered, was I already too late? The next few hours passed in a blur of whispered words and quiet urgency. Lyra had led me through the hidden passageways beneath the palace, each turn taking us deeper into the heart of Zalara's labyrinthine underbelly. The walls here were bare, nothing like the opulent grandeur of the Queen's throne room or the palace above. The air was thick with dust, and the faint hum of machinery echoed in the distance. It felt like we were moving through the veins of a dying creature, each step drawing us closer to the heart of its dark secrets. Lyra moved with purpose, her movements fluid, as though she knew these tunnels well. I followed closely, my mind racing with thoughts of what we had learned, of the Queen's plan and of what was at stake. This way, she said, her voice low but firm. We passed another set of guards, but Lyra slipped us through a side passage before they could notice. I couldn't help but feel a sense of both awe and dread at the complexity of this place, the palace, the technology, and the power the Queen wielded. Solara was far more advanced than Earth, and every corner seemed to hide a new danger. We reached an old door rusted with age, and Lyra pressed a small button hidden within the stone wall. The door slid open with a sharp hiss, revealing a small, dimly lit chamber filled with monitors and control panels. A single chair sat in the center, and several instruments I couldn't identify were scattered around the room. Lyra moved quickly to one of the consoles and began typing furiously, her fingers dancing across the keys. "This is the control room for the Vault of Eternity," she explained, her voice tense. "It's where all the access points to the vault are, monitored." I watched as she pulled up a map of the palace and the surrounding area. A small icon on the screen marked the location of the vault, hidden deep within the planet's surface. "The Queen believes that your DNA will unlock the vault's secrets," Lyra continued, "but she's wrong. She thinks it's a weapon she can control. But what she doesn't know is that the vault was never meant to be opened by any one species. It's far too dangerous." The map of the palace flickered on the screen, zooming in on a particular area, a massive underground chamber where the vault was located. But as Lyra studied the data, a look of unease crossed her face. "The Queen isn't just after knowledge," she muttered, her brow furrowing. "She's after power, power that could shift the balance of the entire galaxy. If she unlocks the vault, she could dominate every faction in existence." I felt a cold sweat break out across my skin. This wasn't just about Zalara anymore. The Queen's plan threatened the entire galaxy. Lyra turned to me, her expression hardening. "We have to stop her before she opens it. If she gets access to that kind of power, she will become unstoppable. There's no telling what she might do." I nodded, my mind racing. "But how? How do we stop her when she controls everything?" Lyra's eyes locked onto mine, determination burning behind them. "We need to get to the vault before she does. We can use the same access points to get in, but we'll have to move fast. The Queen's security is practically impenetrable, but I've learned a few tricks over the years." I could see the resolve in her face, but there was something else there, a hesitation, like she was hiding a piece of the plan from me. "What aren't you telling me?" I asked, sensing there was more to her involvement in this than she had let on. Lyra glanced at me, her gaze flicking to the control room's entrance. She took a deep breath before speaking. "I've been investigating the vault for years," she admitted quietly. "I was once part of the Queen's research team before I realized what she was truly after. What I discovered was that the vault doesn't just contain knowledge. It holds something far more dangerous, an ancient power that could rewrite the very fabric of reality itself." I stared at her, the gravity of her words sinking in. "And the Queen wants to control it." Lyra nodded. "She believes she can use it to reshape the galaxy in her image, but she doesn't understand it. No one does. The vault was never meant to be used by any one species. It's a power that can break worlds." I swallowed hard, the weight of the situation settling on me like a physical force. "We can't let her get to it," I said, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "We need to shut it down before it's too late." Lyra looked at the control panel one last time, then turned toward the door. "There's no time to waste. We need to get to the vault now. The Queen is already on her way, and she'll have all the resources of the palace at her disposal." I nodded, my mind already preparing for the challenges ahead. But as I followed Lyra out of the room, a thought nagged at the back of my mind. What if the vault's secrets were too powerful for anyone to control? What if we were stepping into something even worse than we could imagine? We navigated the tunnels with urgency, Lyra guiding me with a certainty I didn't yet feel. Every turn we took seemed to lead us deeper into the heart of the palace, and the silence around us became increasingly oppressive. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and quick, the weight of the mission pressing down on me. We finally reached a narrow corridor lined with thick, reinforced doors. At the end of the hall stood an elevator, its metal doors gleaming under the dim light. Lyra paused for a moment, checking the surroundings before she stepped into the lift. I followed, my hand resting on the grip of the weapon I'd taken from a guard earlier. As the doors closed, the elevator began its descent. I could feel the tremors of the planet beneath us, the steady rumble of something ancient and powerful deep within the core. Lyra stood silently beside me, her hand hovering over the control panel, fingers twitching as though she was calculating the risks. "You don't have to do this," I said quietly, the weight of her involvement in this situation weighing on me. "You don't have to risk your life for me." She glanced at me, her lips curving into a small but determined smile. "I've already risked everything for this. There's no going back now." The elevator shuddered to a halt, and the doors opened, to reveal a massive chamber. The walls were lined with strange symbols glowing faintly in the dark. At the center of the room was a massive pedestal, surrounded by a pulsating energy field. It was the vault. Lyra took a deep breath. This is it. We have to disable the system before the Queen can access it. I nodded. Together we moved toward the pedestal, our footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. But as we reached the center, a deep, guttural voice echoed through the chamber. You think you can stop me? I spun around, my heart skipping a beat as I saw her, the Queen. The Queen's presence filled the room like a storm, her gaze cutting through the space between us with the weight of her power. She stood at the entrance of the chamber, framed by the dim light of the corridor behind her. Her golden eyes burned with an intensity that froze me in place, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as the weight of her ambition became more tangible than ever. You think you can stop me? Her voice was a velvet blade, smooth but laced with venom. She took a step forward, her long cloak sweeping behind her like the tail of a dark comet. Foolish humans, you have no idea what you're dealing with. Lyra stood beside me, tense but resolute. You don't understand, Your Majesty. The vault, it's not something you can control. It was never meant to be used like this. The Queen's lips curled into a smirk. You always were weak, Lyra. Too much compassion, too much hesitation. She narrowed her eyes at me. And you, Captain Doran, are nothing more than a pawn in this game, a means to an end. My mind raced, calculating the next steps, but the reality of the situation hit me hard. I'd been so focused on trying to understand her plan, trying to stop her, that I hadn't fully prepared for this moment. The vault, the power she sought, it wasn't just some relic of the past. It was a force far beyond anything we could fathom. And now, standing between us and it, was the most dangerous being I had ever encountered. You've underestimated us, Lyra said, her voice steadier now, but there was an edge of desperation beneath the surface. We can still shut it down. We can stop you from using its power. The Queen's smile widened, her eyes gleaming with predatory amusement. You think you can shut it down? You think you understand the vault's true purpose? She stepped closer, her voice a low, deadly whisper. You are nothing more than ants crawling towards something you can never comprehend. She raised her hand, and I felt the temperature of the room drop. An energy field crackled to life around her, a shimmering aura of power that made the air thick and charged. I instinctively reached for my weapon, but before I could react, the Queen raised a finger, and the gun was torn from my grip. It flew across the room and clattered to the floor. Useless. Do you really think your technology can compete with mine? She mocked. You're nothing. Your species is nothing. Lyra stepped forward, defiant but with the fear of someone who knew exactly how dangerous this situation was. You're wrong. We're not nothing. You're the one who's blind. Power, like the vaults, isn't meant for one person. It's meant for the balance of the galaxy, to be shared, not hoarded. The Queen's expression hardened, her eyes flashing with something darker than before. You speak of balance, Lyra. Balance is weakness. Power is the only true force in the universe. Her voice dropped, now cold and threatening. And I will have it, no matter what the cost. Without warning, she lunged forward faster than I could react, her hand glowing with a deadly energy. Lyra shouted, but it was too late. The Queen's hand struck, and a bolt of energy shot toward us. I pushed Lyra out of the way just in time, the energy blast striking the floor where we had just been standing. The ground trembled beneath us and the air smelled of burning metal. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing, and reached for the discarded weapon again. But the Queen was already moving toward the pedestal, her hand raised as she began to channel her energy toward it. No, I shouted, rushing forward, but the Queen's energy field flared up, creating a barrier between us and the vault. It shimmered with an almost organic glow, like something alive. The force of the barrier knocked me back, sending me sprawling across the floor. Lyra's voice was full of urgency as she grabbed me and helped me to my feet. We need to stop her before she can access the vault. she said, her words laced with panic. I looked toward the queen, who was now standing before the vault's pedestal, her hands stretched toward the energy field. It was obvious. She was close. Too close. "The power is mine," the queen declared, her voice triumphant. She stepped closer, her hands crackling with energy as she pushed against the vault's defenses. Her eyes gleamed with a kind of madness. "I will be the one to rewrite the galaxy, to reshape it in my image." "She's lost it," I muttered, watching the queen's frenzy. "Lyra, what can we do? She's going to unlock it." Lyra's eyes flicked to the monitors at the far side of the chamber. "There's one more way we can shut it down," she said urgently. "But we need to overload the system. We need to cause a meltdown, something that will trigger a failsafe to destroy the vault's core." "But we'll all be caught in the blast," I said, my voice low with disbelief. "Are you sure this will work?" Lyra nodded grimly. "It's our only option. We can't let her open it. If we don't, the galaxy is done for." I could hear the queen's voice growing louder as she screamed at the vault, her energy surging wildly. She was getting closer. It was only a matter of time before she broke through. The weight of the decision hit me hard. I didn't want to die here. I didn't want to be a part of whatever madness the queen had unleashed. But I also knew we had no choice. "We do it now," I said, my voice firm despite the fear churning in my gut. Lyra nodded, her expression set with resolve. "I'll initiate the overload. You'll have to stall her. Buy me as much time as you can." I swallowed hard, watching her approach the control panel. The queen had noticed us, and her gaze snapped toward us, burning with fury. "No!" she shrieked, her voice sharp and commanding. "You will not stop me." She raised her hand again, sending a wave of destructive energy crashing toward us. I dove forward, pulling Lyra to the side just as the blast hit the wall behind us, shattering the stone with a deafening roar. "Go!" I shouted, barely hearing my own voice over the deafening noise. "Hurry!" Lyra didn't hesitate. She raced toward the control panel, her fingers flying over the buttons as the queen advanced on us with a fury that seemed to shake the very air. I turned to face her, my breath ragged, every instinct screaming for me to run. But I stood my ground. I couldn't let her win. "You think you can stop me?" the queen hissed, her voice seething with rage. "You're nothing but a pathetic human struggling to hold on to what little control you have." I didn't respond. Instead, I reached for the weapon again, the cold steel reassuring in my grip. The queen was close now, her energy radiating out like a storm ready to consume everything in its path. I had to buy Lyra enough time, just enough. With one last breath, I raised my weapon and fired. The blast from my weapon collided with the queen's energy barrier, sending a wave of rippling force through the chamber. The impact threw me back, but I held on to my resolve as best I could. The queen didn't even flinch. Her aura shimmered and pulsed, absorbing the shot as if it was nothing more than a light breeze. The power radiating from her was almost suffocating, overwhelming everything around us. "You're wasting your time," she hissed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You can't harm me. You can't even begin to comprehend the power I wield now." I staggered to my feet, the air thick with static, my body aching from the force of the blast. The queen's smug expression remained as she took another step toward me, her golden eyes glowing with an intensity that threatened to swallow me whole. The weight of her presence was suffocating, and I felt a deep, primal fear knot in my stomach. She was right. Nothing I did could stop her. Nothing could stand against her. But Lyra was still working. Her fingers flew over the control panel, her face set with a determination that mirrored my own. She wasn't giving up. She couldn't. I had to keep her occupied. I had to buy her more time. I gripped the weapon tighter, my fingers slick with sweat, and I tried again. Another blast fired from the barrel, this time aimed directly at the queen's chest. But once again, the energy field absorbed it effortlessly, leaving the queen unharmed. She smirked, her eyes glittering with amusement. "You think you can win this?" she mocked. "This power isn't something you can defeat. It's the culmination of millennia of evolution of power beyond your comprehension." I could feel the crushing weight of her words, the sense of inevitability settling in. The vault was within her reach. If she unlocked it, there would be no stopping her. The galaxy would fall under her control, and every species, every empire, would bow to her. But then I remembered Lyra's words, her warning about the failsafes, about the dangers of the vault. The Queen didn't understand it. She didn't know what she was tampering with. It wasn't just power. It was chaos waiting to be unleashed, and I couldn't let her open it. I glanced back at Lyra. She was still working at the panel, her face a mask of concentration. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she manipulated the controls with precision, her eyes flicking between the data and the vault's energy field. But I could see the desperation in her movements. She was close, but she wasn't there yet. The Queen wasn't going to give us that much time. The Queen took another step toward me, her gaze never leaving mine. Her fingers crackled with energy, and I could feel the air around me heating up as if a storm was about to break loose. I could sense her anger now, the dark force building inside her, and I knew that if I didn't do something soon, Lyra's plan would fail. We would all die in this chamber, caught in the Queen's destructive grasp. I took a deep breath and leveled the weapon at her again. This time I wouldn't shoot. I couldn't just keep firing blindly and hoping to do something. I needed to distract her, to force her to focus on me so that Lyra could finish what she'd started. "You're making a mistake," I said, my voice shaking but steady. "This isn't the way, Your Majesty. This power you're trying to wield, it will destroy you. It will destroy everything." The Queen's expression flickered with irritation, and for a moment I thought I had finally struck a nerve. But then her smile returned, colder than before, and she raised her hand. "I don't care about your warnings," she spat. "You will not stop me." With a wave of her hand, a pulse of energy shot toward me, and I barely had time to react. I dove to the side, the force of the blast sending a shockwave through the room. The walls trembled, and I could hear the sound of metal groaning under the strain. I landed hard, my body slamming into the ground with a sickening thud, but I didn't stop. I pushed myself up, adrenaline coursing through me. I had to keep moving, keep fighting. The Queen wasn't just after power, she was after control, after domination, and I couldn't let her have it. I glanced over at Lyra. She was still at the control panel, her fingers flying over the console with frantic precision. Sweat was dripping down her face now and her hands were trembling, but she kept going. I turned back to the Queen, who was standing still, watching me with an almost bored expression. "You think I fear death?" she asked, her voice a low, dangerous whisper. "You think I fear anything?" Lyra stepped forward, her eyes filled with resolve. "We have to stop her, we have to shut it down." I nodded, pushing myself to my feet once more. I couldn't afford to hesitate. The Queen was too close to winning. "How do we do it?" Lyra's eyes flicked to the vault, then back to me. "We destroy the core, it's the only way." I didn't need any more explanation. I knew what had to be done. If we didn't destroy the vault, it would only be a matter of time before the Queen was able to fully unlock its power, and the galaxy would be doomed. I glanced at the Queen, her figure flickering in the dim light of the chamber. Her once confident stance had faltered, her energy field trembling as the vault's power surged uncontrollably. This was our chance. Together, Lyra and I moved toward the center of the chamber, our eyes locked on the vault's pulsating core. The Queen's voice, full of venom and fury, echoed behind us, but it didn't matter anymore. Her time had run out. Lyra reached out, her hands trembling as she activated the final sequence. The vault's energy field hummed louder, its light growing blindingly bright, but we didn't stop. We couldn't. The countdown had begun and we were locked in a race against time. The Queen's shriek of rage filled the air as she tried to stop us, sending another wave of energy toward us. I raised my arms instinctively to shield myself, but Lyra didn't falter. She continued to input the commands, her fingers flying over the control panel. And then, with a final, resounding hum, the vault's core began to collapse in on itself. The energy that had once radiated so powerfully from the vault began to retract. its blinding light dimming as the force holding it together began to unravel. The Queen's eyes widened with realization, her once immense power fading as the vault's energy was drawn back into the heart of the chamber. "No," she screamed. "You can't do this. I was supposed to control it. I was supposed to have it all." But it was too late. The vault was beyond her reach now, its power slipping through her grasp like sand through fingers. The chamber shook as the energy that had once flowed freely was now sealed within the vault's core. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the light died. Silence. For a long moment there was nothing but the sound of our ragged breathing, the weight of what had just happened settling on us. The Queen stood frozen, her once proud form now trembling with disbelief. The air around us was still thick with tension, but the storm had passed. The Queen turned toward us, her golden eyes flashing with something darker than fury, something close to madness. "You think you've won?" she whispered, her voice low and guttural. "You don't understand. This is just the beginning. You can't stop what has already been set in motion." Her body shimmered, and before I could react, she vanished, disappearing into the air like smoke. The power that had once filled the room with oppressive force was gone, leaving nothing but the echo of her words lingering in the silence. Lyra and I stood there for a moment longer, trying to catch our breath, to process what had just happened. We had done it. We had stopped the Queen from unleashing the vault's power. The galaxy was safe, at least for now. "Is it over?" I asked quietly, my voice hoarse from the strain. Lyra looked around the chamber, her eyes lingering on the now dormant vault. "For now." But the Queen was right about one thing. This was just a moment. The vault's power still exists, and there are others out there who will come for it. I nodded slowly, understanding the weight of her words. The galaxy had been saved today, but the threat wasn't gone. The forces that sought control over ancient power would always be out there, waiting. Lyra's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something unspoken, a bond forged in the heat of battle, in the shared struggle. We had survived this together, but we both knew that this was just one chapter in a much larger story. "We'll be ready," I said, my voice steady. "Whatever comes next." Lyra smiled faintly, her face weary but resolute. "We will. Together." And with that, we turned and walked away from the vault, leaving the chamber behind. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. We had survived the Queen's madness, and together we would face whatever came next. The galaxy was still ours to protect.